You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, guys, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dahlia, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I've gotten a lot of questions on President Trump's MRI for his heart. And this made news headlines because I think, the Democrats are still struggling, right, how to explain what happened with Joe Biden. And so, when Trump, decides to go off script, they want to accuse him of having cognitive deficit and losing his mind and Trump's like, look, I'm good. I had an MRI, not of the brain, because my cognitive tests were fine and I aced it. And so people were asking, what exactly was going on with this MRI? From what we understand, the White House did release details about an MRI that President Donald Trump had in October. Now, we don't usually MRI the heart, but you can MRI the heart. There are heart MRIs to look at the structures of the heart, the any calcifications. We do CT imaging. And so at first I thought that maybe Trump called it an MRI when it was a CT. And sometimes people use those terms interchangeably. There's a big difference, obviously, between magnetic resonance in imaging and CT scans. But Trump's physician, Dr. Sean Barbabella, said that the cardiovascular and abdominal imaging were perfectly normal. Thank God, no signs of arterial narrowing, inflammation, or organ concerns. Now, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has been pretty vocal about Trump releasing these, especially since there's a lot of drama now going on in his state. But President Donald Trump apparently did go through his executive physical in October. And he did undergo, from what we're being told, an MRI to look at his abdominal health, cardiovascular health, and was normal. He's 79 years old. He had told reporters he had no idea what part of his body was scanned, and that kind of then triggered more questions. And then, Trump. Then there was some back and forth between Governor Walz and Trump, words of which I'm not going to reiterate. But Walz said, has anyone in the history of the world ever had an MRI assigned to them and had no idea what it was for? As he says, this was on his Meet the Press. So Trump obviously called him a name after that. And I find it very entertaining, but as a doctor, I just want to know, is the president okay? Can the commander in chief perform the duties after going through what we had with Biden? That should have never happened. It was obvious he was not in control. Very, very scary stuff. But Trump, from what we understand, clean bill of health. So Dr. Sean Barbarella said Monday that the advanced imaging done at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center was part of a comprehensive executive physical and was ordered because men in his age group benefit from a thorough evaluation of cardiovascular and abdominal health. And we're using more and more MRI. In fact, very interestingly, with my mammogram results, and I've been wondering about breast MRIs, because insurance doesn't necessarily cover them, and Obamacare won't. Obamacare will only cover the barest minimum. Once you put something in writing like the ACA that you need to cover X, Y, and Z, that's all they're going to cover. They're not going to cover W. They're not going to cover G. They're not going to cover I and J and K. So a breast MRI, you're going to probably have to pay out of pocket for a good amount. But my last mammogram said, look, normal mammogram, normal ultrasound, maybe a cyst here and there. But they recommended I start imaging with breast MRI because I have such a high risk for breast cancer in my family. So MRIs are being used now, to look at the heart, to look at abdomen, to look at things. Also, MRIs don't provide, the radiation that CTs do. Although a CT scan once a year, not dangerous. But somebody getting multiple CT scans, that could be an issue with the amount of radiation they get. So Dr. Barbarella described the imaging as routine and preventative, meant to identify potential issues. And he said that the cardiovascular imaging showed no signs of arterial narrowing, impaired blood flow, abnormalities in the heart or major vessels. which is fantastic for a 79-year-old non-ideal weight McDonald's eating man. I mean, this that's fantastic. And I love how transparent they're being. I understand there's a lot of back and forth on how much privacy people should have, but when your commander in chief is there's people's lives relying on him, and voters want to know if he's healthy enough to continue. I think there does need to be transparency, and that is in the realm of justified. So Barbarella said heart chambers were good, vessel walls appeared smooth and healthy, no indication of inflammation or clotting. All major organs appeared healthy and well perfused with no acute or chronic concerns detected. And he described the president's cardiovascular system as being in excellent health. And so this is a good sign. And I know a lot of people have asked, they go, gosh, he's 79 years old. What if he has a heart attack tomorrow? Well, there's, God forbid that happens. There is a vice president. Then we have Speaker of the House. There's a plan in place. But I'm glad that, he's getting his physicals. It just makes us wonder what the hell happened with Biden, how days after leaving office, we're told he has stage 4 prostate cancer. Did they always know? Did he always have it? Or did the doctors just not screen him? And I'm really, really upset with the medical team of Joe Biden. I mean, with the exception of if they have a bunch of forms, AMA, against medical advice, where they said, look, we want to screen your prostate. We want to do a brain MRI. We want to examine you for memory loss. And he kept saying, no, no, no. They're then in the clear. But if they didn't recommend it, or they were so worried about losing their jobs, no. The patient comes first. This was my issue with Fauci when he said, yeah, I felt like I couldn't say what I needed to in the Trump administration. Oh, well, then you should have quit. I mean, if you really, you should have said goodbye to the $400,000 a year job. If you feel like you can't do your job to the highest ethical degree, you leave. You don't just say, well, I wanted to placate to, you say goodbye to that $400,000 a year job. Same thing. If a doctor feels like Biden is not going to follow medical advice and that he could be at risk for metastatic prostate cancer, cognitive decline, and he's refusing, then you say, I can't be your doctor. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away. La. I gotta tell you, I love Christmas music. I can sing it all day long. You guys are very, very lucky this isn't a singing show, because otherwise you would have to hear me sing the whole time. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So we're going to see some drama coming up with the Obamacare extension tax credits, the extension of the tax credits. So Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are going to submit a bill wanting to extend them for 3 years. And the Republicans want a shorter time for extension. They want to look at what's going on with that. This whole tax credit thing is kind of a cluster, and it's not sustainable. And this is what the Democrats were saying had to be a sticking point for the government shutdown when it didn't have to be. I really disagreed with the Democrats on that one. That was, do the tax credits need to be temporarily continued? Sadly, yes. The ACA is the law of the land. We're stuck with the crappy bill. People are reliant on it. We came up with a very bad system, where we're letting insurance companies charge an arm and a leg. And since patients can't pay for that, we have to then use tax dollars to help them pay for it. It's a horrible system. But being that, the Affordable Care Act is still the law of the land, the extended tax subsidies have to be extended. However, does it have to be COVID era tax subsidy? So after COVID, I believe there were changes and there was additional funding. And now that we're out of the COVID emergency, can it go back to pre-COVID type of subsidies? Can it go back to the original ACA? So that is one thing that, because people ask, why are Republicans against, it, and why, why are there's a lot of questions people have. Why is health insurance unaffordable? Well, you got to ask Obama, Sebelius, Nancy Pelosi. You got to ask them because they're the ones that came up with the ACA. When on this show, we even said, guys, think this through. The prices are going to skyrocket. People are going to lose their doctor. Doctors are going to close up shop, go under. It's going to become corporate and then later socialized. Maybe that was the plan. Maybe they wanted that. Because remember, the public option didn't pass. And, Obama wanted like a public option, and that didn't pass. And so this was kind of, okay, well, we'll do this. And then, you guys are going to be begging for a public option once this fails. So when I hear, people say, gosh, health insurance is so unaffordable. This is ridiculous. I don't think that's the Republican fault. I think that's the ACA and the designers of the ACA. That's, it was a very bad bill. With the exception of pre-existing conditions being covered and physicals being covered, the rest of it really was a mess. So now we are in a position where we told insurance companies, just like we tell colleges, you know what? We have money for you. You could charge, your tuition, and we're going to help pay for the students' tuition. So then what happened? Once loan limits went up, then college prices went up. Well, same thing with insurance. I mean, oh my gosh, insurance became so unaffordable by 2010, 2011, 2012. So the problem is if Republicans say, well, look, Obamacare needs to go away. Okay, well, where's your plan B? Do you have Trump care? If you don't have plan B, if there's no Trump care, we still got to work with the poop we have. Now, unfortunately. And so what I think a lot of Republicans want to do is temporarily extend the tax credits and get working on this. Because with the way the system is now, insurance companies can raise their rates, still cause the patient to have a high deductible, high copays, not pay the doctor, because if a patient has a high deductible, it's the patient has to pay. And if depending on the subsidies and depending on where the person is financially, the government will help offset the cost of the premium. But they're not necessarily helping with the deductible and all that. So there's a lot of patients going, yeah, I got Obamacare, but I still can't go to the doctor because it's still too expensive. And so then why are our tax dollars going to, the only thing that's helping is the insurance companies. Now, I do understand the insurance company situation. Once you said pre-existing conditions have to be covered, which I agreed with, well, now they're like, well, nobody healthy is buying our insurance. So if you don't have healthy people buy our insurance, where's the money coming from? So in order to keep a capitalistic system in place, it ends up relying on the government. Now it's starting to become socialized, and it's not the best scenario. So what's supposed to happen next week? And then on top of that, you got the midterms. And Democrats need to change that verbiage of insurance and Obamacare being a mess to you're having issues with your insurance because of the Republicans. This is the Republicans' fault because people weren't buying it. With that whole shutdown thing, people weren't buying it. They weren't buying that the Republicans were at fault for people's bad health insurance because Republicans did a really good job with messaging going, this is Obamacare. This has always been Obamacare. And I mean, Obamacare has been the bane of the healthcare's existence, the healthcare system's existence now for decades. And that message didn't sell. So what Democrats have to do is say, but look at what we're doing. Okay, we're trying to do the tax credits. Now the onus is going to be on the Republicans to pass the tax credits so you still can get fairly affordable insurance on other taxpayers' back. And we're doing it for you. So now there's a vote, and then we could show that the Republicans voted against it. So Chuck Schumer is announcing this. They're going to, send it to the, to the Senate first. It's a 3-year extension of ACA tax credits. Democrats are going to bring this to the floor of the Senate for a vote next Thursday. They say Schumer said every single Democrat will support it. And then Republicans have 1 week to decide where they stand. Well, what do Republicans want? Well, Republicans want to temporarily, pass it, but then try to come up with a better, safer, less expensive path. Now, I would feel very confident if they already had a plan. Now, credit to Trump, he's lowering drug prices. That's fantastic. If he's getting Ozempic from $1,100 a month down to $275 on his Trump RX, if he's negotiating with these drug companies, that's going to be huge. But if the ACA is still promising that insurance companies are going to get, all these subsidies, well, even though it's technically a patient subsidy, but the money goes directly to the insurance company, then, when are we going to see that drug price fall translate to less tax dollars going to the insurance company? It's going to be a while. It's going to take too long. Now, and then what do we do about there not being enough hospitals? What do we do about cancer treatment being so expensive? And it is expensive. Hepatitis treatment being expensive. Multiple sclerosis treatment. Fetal heart surgery to protect these babies before they're born and fix their heart. I mean, these things are expensive. And so if an insurance company has to pay for that, then, who pays the insurance company? Well, then we taxpayers do. So it's going to be a while. So for Trump care, so what should be done? I could complain about the situation as the day is long. You can't just repeal and replace Obamacare. It is too tangled and intertwined, like, a tau and beta amyloid, protein in a brain with Alzheimer's. It is too interconnected where you try to cut the red wire, it implodes. So you cannot just repeal and replace it. It's a mess. And it was designed that way. But what you have to do is you have to ensure that these insurance companies are not taking advantage, right, of the tax of these extra tax credits. We have to have an option for patients where they can turn down the crappy health insurance. So there has to be another option, not a public option, because unfortunately, people say, well, why don't you just buy Medicare or buy Medicaid? You could buy a Medicaid plan. Those plans aren't ideal, and they need a lot of work. But patients need to be able to say, there's not the choices that people think there is. Obama said you're going to get to keep your doctor. There's going to be this marketplace. You're going to have tons of choices. When you look at the choices, you're either screwed or you're doubly screwed. That's, and yes, maybe these subsidies help pay for some of these, but that was only supposed to be temporary. The other thing, too, is we were in a recession, and that recession went way into 2015 with job losses. It was a mess in the early 2010s. And so Obamacare was supposed to be an option for people if they lost their job. So what we need to do is we need to figure out how to, and another thing we also have to do is we have to stop employers from being the ones supplying the health insurance, because if you lose your job in 6 months, now you lost your health insurance. So it's a bigger topic for a bigger segment, but that's what's coming up next. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away. Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon, or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
Back on Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So for years, if a parent had an objection to vaccinating their child based on religious reasons, they could get a waiver. And then they could use that waiver for the school. And most school districts, not a problem. After COVID and the vaccine mandate, we were being told that religious waivers for nurses, military, first responders weren't going to count. And that if somebody didn't want to get the vaccine, they would lose their job. And religious waivers start to fall by the wayside. Then, as COVID emergency, thank God, has passed, parents and we predicted this, that the mandating of an additional vaccine was going to put parents who were already on the fence of their kids getting too many vaccines to say, you know what, I'm just done. I don't trust the vaccine process. I don't trust the motivations behind these mandates. I'm done with all the vaccines. And I was really scared that would happen because I think we have some really, really good vaccines for kids. And I like our kids getting vaccinated against polio and tetanus and hepatitis and pneumonia and Hib. These are some dangerous illnesses, and meningitis and colleges. These are very important tools weapons to be able to fight some pretty bad bugs. But there's been, unfortunately, still a lot of drama as it pertains to that. Well, we're being told by Fox News that the West Virginia Board of Education has reinstated its school vaccination policy after the state Supreme Court paused a lower court's ruling that allowed parents to cite religious beliefs to opt out of vaccines needed for children to attend school. So the state Supreme Court issued a stay on Tuesday, following last week's ruling by Raleigh County Circuit Judge Michael Frauble in a class action lawsuit. Frauble said in his injunction that children whose parents refused the state vaccination requirement on religious grounds would be allowed to attend school and participate in extracurricular sports. But his ruling was blocked pending resolution of appeals in the case. The board said in a statement that it is reinstating its directive to county boards of education not to accept religious exemptions to compulsory vaccination laws. This directive will be in effect until the Supreme Court issues further guidance. Additionally, the board said its priorities to ensure compliance with the state vaccine law and safeguard the health and well-being of all students across West Virginia. So the mandate was suspended by the board after Frauble's ruling, which stated that the state policy prohibiting parents from seeking religious exemptions violated the Equal Protection for Religion Act, signed into law by, at the time, Governor Jim Justice back in 2023, who was Republican. West Virginia was among a handful of states to offer only medical exemptions from school vaccinations, when Governor Pat Morrisey, also Republican, issued an executive order earlier this year allowing religious exemptions. But the board voted in June to instruct public schools to ignore the governor's order and follow longstanding school vaccine requirements outlined in state law. So the two groups had sued to stop Governor Morrissey's order, arguing that the legislator, not the governor, has the authority to make these decisions. According to Fox News, legislation would have allowed the religious exemptions, was approved by the state Senate and rejected. That would have allowed the religious exemptions, was apparently approved by the state Senate but rejected by the House of Delegates. Frobel said in his ruling that the failure to pass the legislation did not determine the application of the 2023 law, rejecting the defendant's argument that religious exemptions can only be established by legislative moves. Because people say, well, in my area, do we have to vote? Do we have to bring it to the people to vote? So there's certain rights that our Constitution protects that it doesn't necessarily, like you can't have people vote that we can now beat our kids. You can't do that. There's just because people voted for it, there's certain rights that are guaranteed. So one parent obtained a religious exemption to the vaccine mandate from the state health department, enrolled her child in elementary school for the current year, then got an email in June saying that it was rescinded. So there's this class action lawsuit involving 570 families who have received religious exemptions in other parts of the state. This class action also applies to parents who seek religious exemptions in the future. Now, Frobel said the total number of exemptions so far involved a small portion of the statewide student population and would not meaningfully reduce vaccination rates or increase health risks. Now, the state law requires children to get vaccinated for chickenpox, hepatitis B, measles, mumps, rubella, meningitis, diphtheria, polio, tetanus, whooping cough before they start school. At least 30 states have religious freedom laws. According to Fox News, the laws are modeled around the federal Religious Freedom Restoration Act that was actually signed by Bill Clinton in 1993, allowing federal regulations that interfere with religious beliefs to be challenged. So, this is something that keeps coming up. Doctors, talk about it and debate it, where they say, look, why is somebody's religion interfering with the health of the community? And then others ask, why is it a religious thing? Why is a vaccination affecting their religion? Well, some of it comes from the HEC-293 cells, and some of the cells that were used to make, let's say, the COVID vaccine, to make medications, and in fact, according to Pathos.com, so these HEC-294 cell lines was believed to have come from, I believe, an aborted baby in the 70s. And cell lines, just like Henrietta Lacks's cell lines, the HeLa cells originated from Henrietta Lacks's cervix. They were taken from her without her consent. She had suffered from cervical cancer, ends up dying in the 1950s. Her cells were taken and used without her consent, but her cells have saved lives. And we credit Henrietta Lacks for her bravery going through what she went through fighting cervical cancer, but how her cells have now saved lives. Because these cell lines, whether they're the HEC-293 or the HeLa cells, have been used ubiquitously in medical research to fight cancer, design medications, create vaccines, and even possibly the mRNA technology. HEC-293 cells replicate rapidly. In order, like, I guess, so if somebody needs to, let's say, make a vaccine or whatever, for these cells to replicate rapidly and to be very easily managed, they're used, ubiquitously in medications. This was an issue, I believe, with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that, so the HEC-293, HEC is human embryonic kidney. There are cell lines that derived decades ago from fetal tissue from an aborted fetus back in the 70s. There's also PER-C6 cells, which is a retinal cell line originating from an aborted fetus from the 1980s. And many modern-day medications are not made with these drugs, but tested on these cell lines. So drugs, according to Pathos.com, who have been reportedly tested on these cell lines include pain relievers like acetaminophen, ibuprofen, decongestants like Sudafed, antihistamines like Benadryl. That's according to Pathos.com. Cough and cold medications like Robitussin, Mucinex, antacids, constipation medications, hemorrhoid medications, antibiotics, antihypertensives, diabetic medications, cholesterol-lowering statins, and the list goes on. And so when COVID came about, and there was this back and forth, in fact, I think the Archdiocese of New Orleans and St. Louis had urged Catholics to vaccinate in good conscience, but maybe opt for Pfizer or Moderna COVID vaccines that didn't use the HEC 293 cell line. But a lot of people feel that many of our current vaccines use a cell line, and because they feel it could be related to this, aborted fetus from decades ago, it could be against a religion. So that's kind of where that theory came from. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away. Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dolly. 1-877 DOCDALI. So I had a patient yesterday, really, really nice patient, child, mom. And the mom was explaining the child being ill. But at first I got a little confused. Because when she was talking to me, she was saying, really nice lady, really nice. She was saying when they got out of bed, they were vomiting. They were sick. And I'm like, oh, okay, she's talking about two patients. Well, I don't have the second chart, or was she talking about twins? And she's like, they have been vomiting the whole time. And I almost said, okay, which one are we going to start with? Then I realized that was the child's pronouns. Now, for somebody who's Gen X and baby boomer age, I mean, I'm Gen X, but if we were a baby boomer or a Gen X, you remember getting smacked with rulers, and you remember failing assignments if you used a plural pronoun for a singular entity. That was breaking one of the most cardinal rules in English. And it's a rule that is now completely, and so I said, would they, do they have a fever? Do they have, and it was really difficult, not because of any sort of bias or anything like that. It's just, I got in trouble in school if you used a plural pronoun for something singular. If Bobby walked into a store and bought a ball, if you say they paid cash, they suggest multiple people. Now, I understand, if individuals might want to not be identified as he or she, and that's why there's Z and there's other. But we've been using plural pronouns, which is grammatically incorrect, and it could also be very, very confusing, especially in the medical world. And so on the note, I couldn't put they because then it would look like I was talking about multiple patients. And you can't be wrong in medicine. So I just said the child. But it's a little tricky because for those of us who were trained, and so my father, English was a second language. He came to America. His parents fled Austria and Germany, fled to Israel for safety. Then in the 1960s, they were able to come after my father finished his military duty, because everybody in Israel has to be in the military. So after he finished his military tour and duty, then they came over. And so my dad spoke German, Austrian, and Hebrew. He had to learn English. So most of my English I learned from my mom. And as you can tell, I don't have the best English. My English is still, every now and then, you'll hear the accent come out. You'll hear because my father, after a while, I stopped listening to my mom, I listened to my father. My father's like, who do? Why you do? You completely stupid. And so my English a lot more mirrors my father. But my mom, she was very, very strict about proper grammar. She's like, where's your shoe? I go, it's on the ground. She's like, it's the floor. You don't call it the ground. Now, I have less P's that it's fewer P's. So she would always be honest. So I actually have a little bit of PTSD when it comes to improper grammar. And so if I was a student and you're hearing about students failing tests and grades, by not using, but there was a parent who told me that their child was up in Reno going to UNR and they got an F on their paper. This was a few years back, right when they were starting to use pronouns, because he said I think, referred to a well-known figure who was male as he and didn't use they or them and failed the paper. And I'm like, did you complain? They're like, who do you complain to? They're all now doing this. Then there was this student at the University of, was it Oklahoma, who had failed a paper. From what we understand, this was an essay. She, I guess, cited the Bible, and it was, I believe, a paper that was about gender norms. She referenced the Bible. The TA failed her, saying that she needs more empathy. And it wasn't objective, teaching her, how maybe linguistically she was dangling her participles, or the essay, was the wrong assignment. It was because of her content. Disagree with the content. And so the teacher was placed on leave, and the assignment is not going to affect her class average. She had to file an appeal, and so, where are we now in terms of, and a lot of parents and grandparents, are kind of struggling to advise their students, because their kids and their family, because they're like, wait a second, you're not supposed to be using plural pronouns. So now it's not male, female anymore. And so where society is moving towards is you have biological male, biological female, biological intersex, hermaphrodites, which do exist, where they have male and female body parts. I think 1% of the population are those individuals. And so we remove the testicles that are undescended, because they could, turn cancerous, and there's no way for you to be aware and watch them. And the child is usually raised as a female. And they end up doing really, really well. Some excelling in sports, but they can't be fertile, unfortunately. And I really, really feel bad for those who are intersex, because they're born with both genitalia and they struggle with fertility and, struggle a lot of times in society. But so you do have male, female, but many intersex individuals will either be XX or XY. You do have some, like Turner syndrome and other Klinefelters, where there might be XXY, XY, but for the most part, the majority of individuals are male and female. Gender is then a social construct. What do you identify as? You identify as a stereotypical female, the stereotypical male, the stereotypical. I mean, I'm a girl, I'm a woman. If we, in the previous decades, when there were stereotypes, I liked wearing boy clothes. I love wearing my husband's boxer briefs to bed. I wear sports jerseys. I don't like wearing makeup. I don't like wearing skirts. I hate high heels, and I love sports. But I'm still a woman. Thank God I was able to give birth to babies and all that. And so, because society has been rejecting the stereotypical boy or girl, you're being a girl, you're running like a girl, you're this, which I understand and I appreciate. And, girl toys and boy toys. I wanted to play with Tonka trucks. I wanted to play with Transformers. I hated Barbie. I didn't want to play with a Barbie. I didn't like tea parties. I didn't like that. Now, and so I agree that kids should play with the toys that they want to play with. Now, but in terms of, well, you're not male, you're not female, you're gender fluid, you're this, from a medical standpoint, you're biologically male, you're biological female, you're biologically intersex, and we need to know. And so, if there's a, shall we say, debate on that, you don't fail the student. I mean, if the student feels there's two sexes, that's fine. The majority of Americans feel that way. And if you really want to help the LGBTQ AI plus community and transgender community members, you don't lie to them and say, we're going to make you a woman, and let them think they're going to look like Beyonce, or we're going to make you a man. I mean, we have to be honest about what the science says. But unfortunately, this TA said she wasn't following the science. So looks like the grade will not affect the final grade. But, colleges, what do you do when your student is struggling with a woke professor? 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. Well, have you ever performed on stage? Right before the show, you would think everybody had their act together, everything's ready. There's always stuff that goes wrong. And then you are sweating, heart rate's up, you start the show, and the audience, your job is to make sure not only that you're performing for the audience, but you're also making sure that the audience doesn't see the poop show and the mess and the stress that happened before. And the funny thing is I would ask, people in the audience that I knew, I'm like, you would not have believed what happened before all this. And they're like, really? It looked smooth. Well, that's kind of what happens with the Olympics. Apparently, it is a poop show. Before we see the Olympics, and I think sometimes we do see a little bit of the poop show, like we saw with the Seine River in Paris. But I gotta tell you, drama's coming. I'm excited. I am really excited about the Olympics coming this year. The Winter Olympics is in Milan, and it's called the Milan Cortina Winter Games. But we have been told now that their hockey arena, now they're, I guess, welcoming NHL players back to the Olympics for the first time in more than a decade. This arena that's supposed to be ready in 8 weeks is not ready. Not only are they behind schedule, but it's the wrong size. They say a test event at the Santa Giulia Ice Hockey Arena, which is a 16,000-seat venue on the outskirts of Milan, had to be moved. And then the new test events aren't scheduled until January 9th to 11th. Now, one coach, Pete DeBoer, who used to coach the Golden Knights, but he now is, what is he, Dallas Stars? And he is Team Canada's assistant coach. He spoke to Sportsnet, and he said the ice surface looks like it's going to be smaller than the NHL rink. How smaller? 3 to 4 feet. He says, I don't understand how that happened. Despite the tournament being played in Italy, initial plans had aimed to use NHL dimensions. Now, NHL dimensions are slightly smaller than European leagues. And standard NHL rink is about 200 feet long, according to Daily Mail, and 85 feet wide. Standard rink in international tournaments is 196.9 feet by 95.1 feet. That actually is a little bigger. So then, how is it smaller? They say it's going to be about 10 feet narrower. So for those individuals who are Olympic status with their hockey playing, they're going to feel that if they hit the side wall sooner than they need to. Now, is there a plan B? No. Andrea Franchisi, the chief games operation officer for Milan Cortina, told the Associated Press there's no plan B. So necessarily, we have to be able to organize the competition in an impeccable manner at Santa Giulia. When's the first game? In 8 weeks. It's going to be a women's preliminary round match on February 5th, one day before the opening ceremony. Now, usually Olympic venues are supposed to be tested the year before. And a large hockey arena, I mean, they have to not only ensure that the ice is safe and the dimensions are safe, but that the playing surface is ready and safe. The concession stands, bathrooms. This is a brand new arena. And Francesi admits there's no precise date for the venue to be handed over to local organizers, but he's confident for the moment that it'll be ready for the Olympics. I think they're going to get it ready. I mean, that it always happens. You know, they're going to make it work. But are you kidding me? This could be dangerous. If you have a narrower arena, you have an arena that's not necessarily they're supposed to be standards. Come on, man. Get it together. Now, the men's Olympic hockey tournament is scheduled from February 11th to the 22nd, and then the women's tournament runs from February 5 to February 19th. Now, we are going to be hosting the next Summer Olympics, Los Angeles 2028. I am very, very excited about that, but we're hearing that's a cluster and a seventh. The 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles is in disarray because of the minimum wage hikes. So leading hotels in the city are threatening to withdraw from agreements they made for the Olympics because of this minimum wage dispute. The LA City Council on Friday voted in favor of improving the minimum wage for tourism workers. It was a second and final vote on the topic, now awaiting the approval of Mayor Karen Bass. And under a phased approach, the wage would increase $22. It would go to $22.50 an hour next month, go up annual $2.50. So they say by the time the Olympics comes in 2028, hotel workers have to be paid $30 an hour. Now, major hotel chains like Hilton, Hotel D'Angelo, Hotel Perla, and Hotel Roosevelt, not happy. And they're threatening to pull out of agreements for a discounted room. At least 8 hotels said they're backing out of the arrangement. That arrangement would make rooms cheaper for their official sponsors and media. They'll still be able to sell the room because, trust me, everybody and their mother, I'm going out there. I want to go to the Olympics. I mean, but they're not going to have cheaper rooms for official sponsors and media if they're paying their staff extra money. They might as well be able to get the high-priced cost from the ticket holders. And so, listen, I get minimum wage is ridiculous. How low it is now? What, $7.25? That's not. And California has already raised their minimum wage. I think they're at now what, 12 to 15, maybe 20. But when it's $30 an hour for hotel workers, and you're going to need to hire a lot of them, and these places think that they're going to take a hit. Yeah, they're frustrated. And so I'm concerned because I think the prices are going to really be ridiculous. If these hotels are balking at the fact that they have to offer discounted rates to officials and sponsors and all that, that means you and I, it's going to be nasty. 1-877 Dolly, don't go away. All right, guys, we are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So one thing I cannot stand hearing is when, we come out of a movie theater or I'm watching a show or something, and throughout my life, somebody would look at the TV and go, wow, she's losing her looks. Or, boy, she lost her looks. Or people will talk about somebody we went to school with and go, yeah, I saw her recently. She lost her looks. She lost her looks. And I heard that as a kid all the time. Oh, look at her. Boy, she's losing her looks. You just keep hearing that. Now, I even caught my husband say that. He's like, who is that? And I go, well, remember we watched her in this movie? Oh, wow. She lost her looks. And said, I'm going, okay, well, what do you, oh my God, what do you think about me then? Luckily, I never had looks to lose. So I when I was younger, I was like, well, gosh, if I ever look good, I'm going to lose it. Yeah. So luckily that never happened. So if you don't have anything to lose, you're pretty happy. But a lot of us are in a position where we're losing our looks, and we are losing our looks rapidly. And even though I never felt pretty, I never felt attractive, maybe I thought I looked good in a couple boots and a couple outfits in my life, but I never, ever, I've always thought of myself as a 2, not a size 2. Out of 10, the 2. Never had confidence in my looks, etc. I still feel like right now that I've been able to kind of stave off aging and hold on to that 2 and be a strong 2. But I feel like this is the year that, boy, is it just rapidly falling. Now, I think the reason why I feel that way is because when I used to do my show, the lighting was different. The room was darker and I looked better. Okay, now we've added more light. We have more lighting. We have the sign. I'm like, oh, God, I look like that. Oh, man, I'm losing my looks. I'm going to go from a 2 to a -2 and then a -22 and then a -222. So if you feel like you are at the point where you are losing your looks, what do you do? And I feel like this is the year I am losing those looks. Losing weight causes you to lose looks. I've been losing weight. And sometimes when you start to lose the fat in your face, you start to get older. The stress, maybe you've been doing lashes and buying certain makeup and now things are expensive. So you got to go cheaper. And I have not done the Botox thing and everything else that everybody else is doing. I don't want to. I'd love to look sculpted, but I'm just too afraid. And I don't have the money. I don't have the money to do cosmetic surgery. So first and foremost, what you need to do is understand that everybody loses their looks. Now, I've seen people age and they still look good, but yeah, they're not like they used to be. I think some people do age better and look better with age. I think there are some individuals where they look so much better now than they, it's interesting. Angelina Jolie, I never thought Angelina Jolie was pretty until I saw her in like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Once she was in her 30s, some people peak at a different time. And then she lost too much weight and she didn't look, but people vary and they change, with where they look. So first and foremost, first advice I give is we're all going to lose our looks. So expect that to happen. Now, you don't want to think that somebody's looking at you going, oh, God, she lost her looks. Yeah, I mean, I am sure, that's been happening to me. But see, here's my thing. If people from my class and school and previous work are saying that, to me, that's a compliment because I'm like, I had looks? You mean I was attractive at some point? So to me, if somebody says, she's been losing her looks, I'm going to turn that into a positive and fast, going, really? I look good? Oh, okay. That's probably my biggest regret. When I was younger, it was always covering up the skin. I didn't like showing cleavage. It was turtlenecks and long skirts and all that. And I could wear a bikini. I was skinny enough for a bikini. I have no pictures of my honeymoon in my bikini. I mean, I might have. I don't know where those pictures are. I have the bikini. But I don't, and I did, because again, I never thought I was bikini worthy. And so my biggest regret is I didn't take pictures. See, now people are taking pictures of themselves going, okay, I want to capture, if I have my looks, capture it. So that's my next piece of advice. If you think this is the best you're ever going to look, then enjoy it. Get some professional photos or do some pictures of your own, play around with the filters. But if you really, want to feel like you have something that you want to, capture, before you lose it, do it. Take pictures. Enjoy it. If there's an outfit you want to wear, do it. A big mistake people make is they try to look the same when they had looks. Okay? Now, I understand I have a fanny pack and people are thinking, you could get with this or you could get with that. They know I'm going all 90s, hammer time. I just like the fanny pack. It's just more comfortable. And I can't wear it across the chest because the boobies protruded out and then I can't see anything. So I like wearing a fanny pack. Sorry, but I'm not trying to look like I was in the 90s. I'm not wearing styles from the 90s. Most of my clothes I have are because, I just, I'm not buying new clothes all the time. I will rewear clothes. But if you try to go back to your Madonna days in the 80s, okay, you're going to look ridiculous. And so embrace the age. If you are in your 40s, if you are in your 50s, if you're in your 60s, you could look beautiful. Helen Mirren, exquisite. Jennifer Lopez looks great. She's in her 50s. Michelle Pfeiffer looks good. People are so afraid, well, somebody's going to look at me and say I'm old. Everybody's always going to look at you and say you're old. When I was a high school senior, and I'd be working with kindergartners, they looked up at me going, wow, you're old. So get that out of your head. Everybody is always going to look at you like you're old. And then older people are going to look at you like you're young. That's just, get that. Don't panic about that. That happens. But, embrace the age. If you want to do some nip tuck, and I know I could probably use some, not doing it yet. If you think that's going to help, if there's something that's bothering you, like one thing I should probably consider that a lot of my friends have done is their eyelids droop. And so they get blepharoplasty to kind of raise the eyelids, and it reshapes their eyes. I don't know if I want that yet, but if it gets to the point where I feel like I can't open my eyes and the skin is drooping, I'm going to have to do something. Just like the only plastic surgery I've had has been on the boobies, where after breastfeeding, I wanted them above the waist, right? And so I got a lift, mastopexy. That was great because then it helped me with working out, etc. It sucks because I gained weight after that. I had great weight. Everybody said, after you get plastic surgery, you're going to gain weight. And I'm like, why? They go, it's a curse. I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's true. I never got back to my weight I was, and something happened right after the surgery. It's like, I don't know. But anyway, still very, very happy that I got that done. But I did it because of function. So if there's something that you need for function, go for it. But be very careful that once you start, it's kind of hard to stop. The idea of, what about my spouse? Is my spouse going to find me attractive? What makes you unattractive to your spouse is being a jerk, being a bitch, being mean, and so if you don't want to tick off your spouse or have your spouse unattracted to you, then don't be, mean. Don't be evil. Don't be Be, who they married, where, you love them, exude love, exude friendliness, be helpful, be, have positivity. Which then brings us to the next point, be positive. One thing that ages us is they're making too much noise. Oh my gosh, where's these kids' parents? It's too loud. It's this, and I see that, in my friends where they're starting to be grumpy old men. And I'm like, dude, come on. It's not that big a deal. We didn't care when we were in our 20s. Yeah, but that ticks me off. That, yeah, I know, but don't let that eat you up inside. And so be positive. And so if a kid is playing around at a restaurant, enjoy it. Yeah, if the kid messes with your meal, that's one thing. But don't be like giving dirty looks, and that ages you. In terms of embracing the aging, and I don't always do that well. Sometimes I put on too much makeup. Sometimes my hair is a mess. Sometimes there are styles you could wear. I want to look like Dolly Parton when I'm Dolly Parton's age. I might need some bigger boobies, but I gotta tell you, I think Dolly Parton is exquisite, and she aged beautifully. So think about how and I understand she's rich, but she's always positive. She's always smiling. She's always happy. And wigs. So that's another thing. Play around with some wigs. But we all lose our looks. It's okay. Hydrate, eat healthy, be positive, and embrace the aging. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
in 1-877 Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So federal prosecutors say a California healthcare executive was accused of major fraud, draining $7 million from a program meant to supporting aging veterans. He got arrested at SFO, San Francisco International Airport, on Wednesday as he tried to board a flight to Nigeria. Kashmir Chenadu Luke, believed to be 66 years old and living in Antioch, now fails a criminal complaint alleging he billed the Department of Veterans Affairs for thousands of home care services that never happened. Idiot. Prosecutors say some of the claims even listed are provided to veterans weeks after they died. Luke ran Four Corners Health LLC, a Fresno-based company contracted to provide unskilled in-home assistance to VA beneficiaries across several counties, including San Francisco, Contra Costa, Fresno, Tulare, Merced, Mariposa, and Madera. Between December 2019 and July 2024, investigators say he submitted about 10,000 false claims through the Veterans Community Care Program. According to court documents, those claims included duplicate claims for care actually provided, claims for days caretakers were not even present with the veterans, claims for hours of care beyond those actually worked for caretakers, and claims of care for veterans who were actually dead. You know, these cases, when you hear people defrauding the VA system, Medicare, I mean, as a physician, I am just blown away because you don't go into this field to do fraud. Okay. I mean, medicine is one of the most overworked, underpaid fields. I know people think that a lot of doctors get a lot of money, but when you're primary care, the pediatricians, the family docs, the internists get paid the least. And the hours I had put in, now I know doctors now don't do call, where you're woken up in the middle of the night all night long by patients and you're never sleeping, and you're, I was at the office before 6 a.m. and I'd leave at 10 at night. Never saw my kids grow up. I mean, for the amount of money I was making, I made more money. I had more money in my pockets when I waited tables. And so you don't go into it for the money. Yet, doctors always talk about this going, why would somebody do this? How are they getting away with it? Now, Medicare and Medicaid wouldn't be paying on the claims. I had a much different experience with Medicare and Medicaid. I told you Medicare once sent out, money did not come into my bank account for months. And I called Medicare. They go, we paid you. I go, you've been doing direct deposit. You wanted to do direct deposit. You stopped sending us checks. We haven't got paid for you in 9 months. Yet patients got EOB saying they paid. I'm like, where did the money go? We never got it. And then with Medicaid, that was Medicare. Not to mention with Medicare, I would give a flu shot and they would pay us 12 cents. I'm like, but the flu shot cost us more. They go, well, that's all we're paying. Okay. I don't know how people got more money from Medicare. And then with Medicaid, they decide to send a form letter to everybody saying, we think we overpaid some of you. So I want you to give back any money we overpaid. If we don't see a check from, a company, they will be up for an audit. So I'm looking at this going, okay, so you're basically asking us for money or we get audited. And I'm like, well, I don't have a check to give you because you never overpaid us. And the reason why you didn't overpay us is because we have $50,000 in claims you haven't paid. So rather than sending you a check, Mr. Medicaid, I am going to resend you the $50,000 in claims you never paid us. Never got paid on them. But as a physician, and we had biller after biller, and we hired specialists to figure out how to get insurance just to pay for the stupid visit. You'd have somebody with high blood pressure would get the $30 or $40 payment on, and then would have another patient with high blood pressure who wouldn't get paid. And they both had same Medicare. So I'm confused by that. However, those individuals who know how to get Medicare to pay, if they are unethical, they find a way to capitalize on those payments. And nobody should be unethical in medicine. But you have some idiots that are. And either they think they're not going to get audited, which is stupid because of Medicare audits. I mean, they from what I heard from friends of mine, the audit is not fun at all. In fact, one of my friends is a specialist. And he was audited by Medicare. And he passed, except Medicare said he billed a bunch of visits wrong as a doctor visit when it should have been billed a nurse's visit. He said, but it wasn't a nurse visit. I was in the room. I examined him. Here's my exam. Yeah, but the documentation wasn't enough for that level. So we're going to downgrade it. I mean, it's not, easy. He's like, I did nothing wrong, but they had to leave with something. So they basically said I billed nurse visits as doctor visits when it never was a nurse visit. So with us, we just didn't charge for nurse visits. We were like, we're not even going to mess with that. I mean, if you're going to have a nurse visit to recheck your blood pressure, it'll be for free. I didn't know what to do. It was like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And so my guess is what some of these idiot individuals are doing is they're thinking, well, nobody's going to double check. How do they not know? We didn't, do this service. How do they not know? And they take advantage of it. And I really worry that there's a lot of bad actors out there doing this. There's a lot of bad people that are billing and defrauding. And we know there's fraud. In fact, this blew my mind. We're talking about Obamacare subsidies. So we're being told that Obamacare subsidies were granted without documentation to 90% of fake accounts set up by a government watchdog. 90% of fictitious applicants over the last 2 years were able to get Affordable Care Act subsidies. The Government Accountability Office preliminary findings of ongoing and covert testing of Obamacare found fraud risks in the ACA marketplace, specifically related to the healthcare program's advanced premium tax credit. This is a subsidy that the Democrats wanted, and shut down the government for. So according to the government watchdog, they said the federal marketplace approved coverage for nearly all of the GAO's fictitious applicants in planned years 2024 and 2025, generally consistent with similar testing in planned years 2014 to 2016. So we have no checks and balances. In planned year 2024, all 4 of GAO's fake applicants received coverage with lower monthly premiums thanks to $2,300 per month in Obamacare subsidies granted to insurers, despite not submitting documentation to support Social Security numbers, citizenship, and reported income. So, we have fraud, whether it's with COVID, reimbursement and subsidies, whether it's, this was a big problem with hospitals when COVID started. Hospitals are like saying patients don't pay. Since Obamacare, they don't pay, and we're going to have all these sick people coming in, we're going to go under. So the federal government said, look, if it's a COVID-related diagnosis, we'll reimburse you. So then everybody and their mother got a COVID diagnosis when they went to the hospital so that the hospital can make sure they got paid. Were they lying? Well, if somebody was coughing, or they had nausea or vomiting, or difficulty breathing, or a fever, or a sore throat, all those symptoms could have been COVID. So they weren't lying. But unfortunately, this is what happens. And I there has to be more accountability. I was scared to death of. And remember, I had a biller that built a Pap smear on a mail to Medicare, and I had made it a rule where I oversee anything, especially going to Medicare and Medicaid, because I want to make sure there's no mistakes because it reflects on me. And I caught this the next day, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" The guy's name is Tim. Well, apparently the HICFAs at the time, they were paper, and she said they were stuck together. I don't know what she was thinking. And so I contacted Medicare. Luckily, the person laughed. I go, please don't pay us for this. They go, it probably went through the system. Just give the money back. I'm like, I don't understand why my biller would do this, but it's like, thank God, we paid him back for that. It was like, $20 or whatever, but still. Yeah, to think that people would take that. You go to jail for trying to defraud the government. The 1877 Doc Dolly. Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy a nice house in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So if you are a Jew, a Catholic, a Christian, LDS, Muslim, Hindu, Buddha, somebody who wants to support Israel, support its ability to be there as a safe haven for Jews in case another Holocaust happens, to protect religious artifacts, to provide amazing health technology and technology that America and other countries benefit from, you could be in trouble. And your business could be in trouble, especially in New York City. Now, I understand that Zohran Mamdani has been making a lot of people nervous, especially with some of his rhetoric and his lack of condemning terms like globalize the Intifada and other things that have been very anti-Israel and anti-Jewish. And he said in that meeting with Trump that he is going to make sure he protects all New York citizens. But Mayor Eric Adams apparently is concerned that that's not going to happen. And so Mayor Eric Adams, the outgoing mayor of New York City, is making some moves that'll hopefully protect Jewish, Catholic, LDS communities. Because those who do support the state of Israel and Israel's right to exist can be under fire and could be at risk in this next administration. So the BDS movement, I believe it stands for Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions. It's, from what we're told, is a Palestinian-led movement that advocates for non-violent pressure, but boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. The back and forth of Israel occupying land, the mandate that gave Palestinians their homeland, which was, I believe, going to be in the state in where Jordan, this was back in 1948, where the Palestinians were going to have their homeland in the current country of Jordan. That, didn't happen because it was refused that, but then we're honoring an agreement that recognizes Israel. We can't recognize Israel because that's against our religion. And so now there's been, even though the Middle East has multiple countries that can offer homes, the site of Israel is the contested, the very small sliver of land that Israel has is contested as where where the Palestinian homeland should be. And so Muslims and Jews and Hebrews and have lived there for centuries. And so there's a lot of back and forth as to who has the rights to the land, who, should be there, and it's a shame that it's, you have the whole Middle East and it's just a very small, smaller than the size of Rhode Island. That is, just the topic, always the topic. And there's I got to tell you, Gaza, beautiful beaches. Gaza could be exquisite. and Hamas is ruling it, and it's a mess. But what's been happening in New York? Well, there's this huge BDS movement that will boycott, divest, sanction, and affect businesses who appear to, honor Israel. Mayor Eric Adams is announcing an executive order barring New York City from making business or pension investment decisions that discriminate against Israel. Now, Zohran Mamdani reportedly supports BDS. So this order puts now Mamdani into a very interesting spotlight. All right. This, by the way, Eric Adams isn't the first one that had put this into law. I believe Kathy Hochul, the governor, and Andrew Cuomo, previous governor, had put laws into effect. But if Mamdani supports boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel, what is he going to be doing to his constituents? What's he going to be doing to his business owners? The administration, according to Eric Adams, recognized the benefit of maintaining a strong relationship between the city of New York and the state of Israel. He discussed this Wednesday night in an event sponsored by the North American Mayors Summit against anti-Semitism in New Orleans. A second executive order announced by the outgoing mayor would also make sure that NYPD tightens enforcement to protect synagogues and other religious sites from enhancement. Executive Order 61 directs the department to evaluate potential changes to the patrol guide to better regulate protests occurring near houses of worship, including setting up zones where demonstrations would be prohibited within a certain distance from the entrance of a church, mosque, or synagogue. Complete agreement with that. Mosques need to be protected too. Churches need to be protected. The proposed restrictions come a week after there were protesters gathered in front of Parkey Synagogue on the Upper East Side, uttering chants of globalize the Intifada and death to the IDF. So Adams said New York City has always been this nation's melting pot, but too often over the past few years, we've seen those of Jewish ancestry be singled out and targeted. Today, we are ensuring our city government doesn't participate in that type of behavior and are putting in safeguards to protect New Yorkers' tax dollars and protect their right to practice their religion without harassment. So this mirrors a state executive order that was issued in 2016 by Cuomo. Governor Hochul continued it. It prohibits state agencies from doing business with companies that support the BDS movement against Israel. City and state laws prohibit discrimination against bidders for city contracts on the basis of their national origin. So this is a very, very smart move. But, it'll be interesting to see how Mamdani proceeds. Now, Mamdani, the Jews and Muslims have lived in peace for most. I know it seems like they've always been fighting, but Muslims and Jews, especially in Israel, have lived together in peace. My family has friends with. I mean, it's just they're. I mean, they protect Israel. They utilize Israeli hospitals. They're supporting the tax system. I mean, they're citizens of Israel. And so if a Muslim or a Christian or a Catholic or a LDS or Hindu Buddha or somebody is in support of Israel, we got to make sure they're not going to be targeted by individuals who want is. And I understand it is a very emotional discussion of who has the rights to that small area in the widely vast Middle East that has multiple countries, and Israel having the smallest representation there, and the holy sites and where Jesus is buried. I mean, this is Israel has vowed to protect that, has vowed to protect those within Israel, vowed to protect but this movement, which has been calling for Israel to be removed off the face of the earth, that's not going to be taken well, and it's un-American. And so to think that people are just trying to worship and go to temple, go to church. I mean, look at this, the Minnesota Catholic shooting, the people just trying to go and pray. Catholic school shooting. There has to be protection and safeguards, and I actually recommend that across America, you have areas where the demonstrations cannot happen to ensure that people can actually walk and get to services. Like, there's people in Las Vegas having an actual a fit because LDS is going to be building another beautiful temple on the west side of town. Why not? That's exquisite. That I cannot wait. And there are people against that. And so you have a lot of, and it's very frustrating that we don't have this. I mean, this is America. This is where we should be able to go to mass and not feel like we're getting shot. Bible study and people getting shot during Bible study. We do have to have protections in place for our clergy and for our religious institutions. So good for Mayor Eric Adams. We'll see if Zoran Mamdani keeps it. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. You know, we've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.